If planning time feels like a constant game of catch up, this episode is for you. Today, I want to share the simple framework that finally helped me stop planning in survival mode and start planning with purpose, even when I was juggling 5 preps. Let's talk about introduce, practice, produce, and why it's the antidote to planning overwhelm. Welcome to the Secondary Teacher Podcast, the podcast for middle and high school teachers juggling multiple preps to get the strategies to reduce overwhelm so that you don't have to choose between being an effective teacher and prioritizing important relationships. I'm your host, Kristen Masick, a 10-year high school engineering teacher, former middle school assistant principal, and teacher coach. Every week, we will discuss strategies, systems, and time-saving tips to help you not only survive but thrive as a multiple prep teacher. Let me take you back. One of my early years of teaching, I was prepping for a class called Materials and Processes. I didn't even have a proper lab. My lab was basically an old elementary school kitchen and whatever random equipment I could convince the district to buy, most of which was outdated or designed for middle school standards, not high school rigor. I was pulling lessons from dusty textbooks that I hoped were still relevant, crossing my fingers that each activity I pieced together would 1. Fill the entire class period, 2. Keep my students engaged, and 3. Meet at least some standard. I was reinventing the wheel every single day for every prep. And by October, I was burned out. Not because I wasn't working hard, but because I was working without any kind of structure to hold it all together. So let's dive into the power of a simple framework. What finally helped me crawl out of that mess was not a giant curriculum binder. It was a single page, just 3 words at the top. Introduce, practice, produce. And here's why the simple framework is so powerful. It gives you something to anchor to, no matter what you're teaching, how long your class period is, or whether you have a curriculum guide at all. So here's how it works and why it's a lifesaver. You can use introduce, practice, produce at every level of planning. So here's what it looks like at the unit level. What are you introducing over the next few weeks? What will students practice consistently? What will they produce to show they learned it? Now at the lesson level, what's one skill or idea you'll introduce today? How will they practice it in class? What will they produce, even if it's a simple exit ticket, to show their understanding? And then at the class period level, if you're on a block schedule or longer periods, you can chunk your time. So you're going to start with an introduction segment, then move on to a practice chunk, and then end with a production activity. And now you might need to repeat that more than once based on the length of your block. The framework creates clarity where chaos used to live. Instead of feeling like you have 90 minutes to fill out of thin air, you can look at your plan and say, okay, first I'll introduce this skill, then we'll practice it together. Then students will produce something to show what they learned. And here's the best part. If you're on a roll brainstorming ideas for one section, like introduce, you can bank them for later. You don't have to force yourself to work in a perfect sequence. You can keep dropping those ideas into a bucket they belong in. And that's what finally made planning feel doable for me. So here's why overplanning is a trap. If you're anything like me, you might be tempted to overcomplicate this, to think you need to create 12 different activities for every lesson to keep kids engaged, or that you have to make everything from scratch to prove you're creative and not boring. I tried that. And here's what I learned. Overplanning is just another form of overwhelm. Most days, my students didn't need elaborate plans. They needed clear expectations, a consistent structure, and the space to do the work themselves. Here is the mindset shift that saved my sanity. The big mindset shift was this. I didn't have to plan everything. I just had to plan the structure. Once I knew the introduce, practice, produce rhythm, I could reuse protocols across classes, stop feeling guilty when I repeated outlines, and actually finish my plans before the bell rang. When you have a framework, you can finally feel like you've clocked out of planning, even if your day isn't perfectly wrapped up. So here's your next step. If you're tired of planning by sheer willpower, I'd love to help you create your own repeatable structure. Inside the Multiple Prep Teacher Academy, I teach you exactly how to build planning systems that scale, so you can stop working nights and weekends and finally feel confident about your next class period. Enrollment is open now, and you can join anytime. Not ready to jump in yet? Start by grabbing my free mini training, Make AI Your Teaching Assistant. It's full of prompts to help you plan faster without losing your sanity. You'll find the links in the show notes. You don't need a 20-page pacing guide to feel prepared. Sometimes all it takes is a 1-page framework and permission to keep it simple. You've got this, teacher friend. Until next time.